Oliver Reingold thought he had the world at his feet. $1 million empire, the fastest cars money could buy, and a luxe private jet always standing by. But when he flew to Miami Beach with his captivating mistress, he never expected the unthinkable. His pregnant wife, Elena, owned the very hotel where he planned to indulge in sinful secrecy. As Oliver steps off that plane, his world teeters on a razor's edge. Betrayal, hidden motives, and emotional storms await them all. None can escape the fallout of carefully guarded secrets, and what Oliver discovers next will haunt him forever. Oliver Reingold had always lived in grand style. Born with a sharp intellect and an irresistible charisma, he parlayed a modest inheritance into a thriving technology company in less than a decade. At 35, he had a board of directors who hung on his every word, an opulent mansion in Bel Air, and international press that touted him as a visionary entrepreneur. Despite his apparent success, though, Oliver felt perpetually restless, as if each victory opened a new void in his soul. He was forever in search of the next conquest, the next thrill, something to confirm he was truly alive. He was married to Elena Santorini, once a talented interior designer he'd met years ago while revamping his old midtown townhouse. She was a brilliant architect in her own right, with a calm precision and refined taste that complemented Oliver's flashier style. Their initial spark had been electric. Soon after meeting, Oliver found himself opening up in ways he never had before. Elena's quiet ambition, her unyielding sense of integrity, and her warm presence offered him a comfort beyond words. They married in a lavish ceremony in St. Bart's, but the sweetness of early married life subtly gave way to Oliver's gnawing desire for constant excitement. Elena, meanwhile, pursued her own entrepreneurial endeavors. She channeled her resources, both financial and creative, into the hospitality business. Over the years, she'd quietly partnered with established hoteliers across the country, expanding her network while maintaining her own distinct brand of elegance. In short, she was building an empire in her own right, though Oliver rarely paused to acknowledge it. When they discovered Elena was pregnant, Oliver had seemed genuinely elated. But somewhere beneath the bright smiles and affectionate glances, an uneasy tension simmered. Enter Bianca Mendez, a sultry marketing consultant Oliver hired for a new product campaign. She was fiery, witty, and unstoppable at negotiating deals that left the competition scrambling. She and Oliver clicked instantly, in boardrooms first, then in private dinners that blurred the line between business and pleasure. Gossip circulated the office corridors, but no one dared confront Oliver. He was the boss, after all. And so the affair began in earnest, with stolen weekends in five-star hotels and secret phone calls under the guise of late-night strategy meetings. Now it was nearly spring. For weeks, Bianca had insisted she needed a bigger dose of thrill. She wanted to go somewhere tropical, just the two of them. Oliver, always eager to please himself as much as her, offered his private jet. Miami Beach was the perfect cover. He told Elena he had critical business negotiations in Florida. He left her at home, pregnant, with a reassuring kiss on the cheek and promises to call. The sense of power Oliver felt stepping onto the tarmac with Bianca on his arm was intoxicating. She wore a breezy lilac sundress that clung to her in all the right places, hair tumbling in dark rivers over her shoulders. Her laughter rang out like champagne flutes clinking. Beside her, Oliver felt attractive, virile, unstoppable. As the jet's engines roared to life, he savored how Bianca gazed at him with unvarnished admiration, rare for a man used to cynical board members and carefully measured sycophants. The flight lasted just under 5 hours, filled with champagne toasts, flirtatious banter, and decadent amuse-bouches. At 30,000 feet, everything seemed weightless, including Oliver's guilt. The feeling of being so high above the small details of life made his transgressions feel almost inconsequential. Yet every so often, a pang of worry surfaced. He would recall Elena's soft smile that morning, the light in her eyes when she touched her growing belly. It struck him that while he was living out his fantasies, Elena was carrying the next generation of his legacy. But he quickly pushed away the thought of betrayal, drowning it with yet another glass of rare vintage champagne. The moment demanded celebration, not regret. They landed at Miami Opa-locka Executive Airport in late afternoon, sunlight reflecting from sleek planes parked on the runway. With Bianca's hand clasped in his, Oliver stepped onto the tarmac. The air was warm and thick with humidity, carrying the promise of nights that linger under neon lights and the steady pulse of ocean waves. Waiting beside a glossy black Escalade was a perfectly groomed driver holding a placard with Oliver's name. The plan was to head straight to the newly opened Valentina Resort and Spa, an elite hotel that boasted private suites with panoramic ocean views and a strict confidentiality policy for its high-profile clientele. Oliver hadn't realized that the newly opened property had ties to Elena's discreet expansion. He'd simply followed Bianca's suggestion, who had heard rumors of its pristine amenities. As the SUV wove through the traffic of Miami, Oliver stared out the window at the vibrant murals and palm-lined luxury boutiques. He felt an adrenaline rush building again, a sense that life was about to surge forward into something more reckless, more dangerous. He liked this feeling, being on the edge, flirting with the possibility of getting caught while believing he was too cunning for that to happen. When they finally arrived at the Valentina Resort and Spa, the facade gleamed in the late afternoon sun, all translucent glass and sleek architectural flares. Bellhops in clean white uniforms hurried to greet them, whisking away their luggage as quickly as possible. Inside the vaulted lobby, the floors were polished marble, and a cascading chandelier tinkled like 1,000 diamonds. Bianca gasped softly. "Oliver," she breathed, "this is exquisite." He felt both pride and curiosity. In his mind, he had silently congratulated himself on picking such a paradise. If there was any thought about Elena's involvement, her business invests in high-end resorts after all, he dismissed it. This felt like a universe far removed from his wife's usual radar. At the check-in desk, a tall professional concierge welcomed them. "Good afternoon, Mr. Reingold. Everything is set for your arrival." He handed them 2 key cards with a polite smile. Oliver noticed a fleeting glimmer of recognition in the man's eyes, as though he might have known more than he should. But it disappeared quickly behind professional courtesy. Bianca looped her arm through Oliver's and practically dragged him to the elevator, excited to see the extravagant suite. The corridor leading to their rooms smelled of gardenias and subtle incense. Once inside, the suite was everything they had imagined. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, plush furnishings in midnight blue velvet, and a private terrace with a jacuzzi. Bianca's gaze swept the opulent surroundings, her lips curving into a triumphant smile. She looked at Oliver with an intensity that made his breath catch. "This weekend," she murmured, stepping closer, "is going to be unforgettable." Oliver smiled, a mixture of anticipation and underlying tension. He forced himself to forget the life waiting for him back home. He focused on the glittering horizon, the woman in front of him, and the promise of what was to come. Had he paused to consider fate's cunning sense of timing or the possibility that Elena might have her own secrets, he might have seen the gathering storm. But in that moment, blinded by ego and excitement, Oliver believed he controlled everything. Little did he know, his world was about to be flipped on its axis, an earthquake of emotional reckoning set to rattle his carefully constructed illusions. Elena Santorini Reingold walked barefoot across the front porch of her newly purchased estate in Coconut Grove. She had arrived in Miami 2 days prior, accompanied by her trusted assistant and business confidant, Gabriel Simmons. Her pregnancy was at 6 months, and though she looked serene on the outside, inside she felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Excitement to finally be stepping into her new role as a hotelier in South Florida, and a nagging intuition that something was amiss. She had initially come to Miami with the intention of completing final negotiations for the Valentina Resort and Spa, a prime addition to her growing portfolio of boutique and upscale hotels. Elena had chosen the property because it was both high-profile and tastefully designed, a modern architectural marvel that aligned seamlessly with her vision. But this was her most secret venture. Even Oliver didn't know. They had discussed her business expansions in broad strokes, but given Oliver's disinterest in the details and her need for some independence, she kept much of her progress under wraps. The last few weeks, she had been juggling meetings with lawyers, brand consultants, and local investors. During that time, she noticed a change in Oliver. He seemed even more preoccupied than usual, head buried in phone calls and whispering sweet nothings to clients at odd hours. She couldn't say precisely when the first seeds of suspicion were planted, but they took root in the quiet corners of her mind, blossoming when she detected the faint scent of unfamiliar perfume on one of Oliver's jackets. Yet she chose not to confront him. Not yet. "Madam," Gabriel called, stepping out onto the porch. "The new resort manager just called. He wants you to come for a walkthrough sometime this afternoon. We've closed the deal successfully as of last night." Elena breathed in the fresh air. "Perfect. Let's head over soon. I want to make sure everything is in place before I tighten operations." They left the Coconut Grove estate in a chauffeured town car, weaving through luxurious enclaves of Miami's tropical paradise. As they approached the hotel, a flicker of anticipation fluttered in Elena's belly. She wasn't just here for a business inspection. She wanted to see how her presence changed the atmosphere. Did the staff feel supported, or did they sense a new overlord? That mattered to her. She believed a property was only as great as the people who ran it. Inside the lobby, the manager, Jorge Galvez, greeted her warmly. "Ms. Santorini," he said, employing her maiden name for privacy. "We're thrilled to have you here. Everything's going according to plan. We've filled 4 of our luxury suites with high-profile guests just this past week alone." Elena nodded with approval. "I'd like to see the suite that just opened up recently. Are the guest logs available?" Her intention was to gather a sense of occupancy trends and special requests. The more personal the service, the more likely guests were to rave about the experience. "Of course," Jorge said. He guided Elena toward a back office brimming with polished wood fixtures and modern lighting. "We've had a few big names come in. One interesting reservation is for Oliver Reingold, arrived just today." Elena's heart jolted. She struggled to keep her voice even. "Oliver, that name sounds familiar," she said carefully. "I haven't met him personally. Where is he staying?" "Penthouse suite, floor 22, Jorge replied. He arrived with a female companion. Usually when we have couples like that, we discreetly cater to their privacy." I took a quick look. "The companion's name is Bianca Mendez. She doesn't ring a bell, but you know how it is. Some folks are just here to indulge." Elena felt a knot tighten in her chest. This was it. Confirmation. She swallowed hard, maintaining composure. "Right, yes, that's standard. So how is the occupancy in our penthouse suites overall?" Jorge continued to rattle off statistics, unaware of the storm raging in Elena's mind. Meanwhile, Gabriel noticed Elena's trembling hand as she reached for a glass of water. He stepped forward to hold the glass steady, giving her a concerned glance. She nodded a silent thanks. It took every ounce of her grace not to break down right then. When Jorge finished, Elena offered a polite smile. "Thank you for the update. I'll do a quick personal inspection of the penthouse area. I want to ensure everything is in perfect working order for our special guests." Certainly, Jorge said, somewhat perplexed but eager to comply. I can escort you if you'd like. No need, Elena said firmly but politely. I'll take Gabriel with me. I appreciate the offer. A few minutes later, Elena and Gabriel stood in the elevator, ascending skyward. The pregnant woman felt as if her heart was thrashing against her ribcage. The air felt thicker the higher they went. She dreaded the moment those elevator doors slid open. In some part of her mind, she wondered if confronting Oliver right now was wise. But she needed to see it for herself. No illusions, no denials. She had to gather her strength. When they reached the 22nd floor, Elena noted the corridor's modern sculptures and plush carpeting. A sign near the elevator read, Penthouse 2201, 2202. After a brief pause, Elena inhaled deeply. Gabriel, please wait here, she whispered, pressing her palm against the baby bump, as if seeking reassurance. Elena walked softly toward Suite 2202, the one reserved under Oliver's name. Her heart pounded harder. She heard muffled laughter and affectionate cooing from behind the door. She braced herself, prepared for the possibility that Oliver and Bianca might open the door at any moment. Instead, the door remained closed, offering only the shadowy hints of betrayal. She hovered there for a dozen heartbeats, a swirl of heartbreak and disbelief washing over her. Images of her life with Oliver, memories of nights spent dreaming of parenthood, the gentle touches during their honeymoon, clashed violently with the sounds of infidelity emanating from the suite. She walked away, forcing herself not to cave under the weight of her sorrow. She needed time to think, to strategize. Running in, screaming at Oliver, or begging for answers would give him all the power. She needed to protect herself and her unborn child. She needed to decide how to handle this precarious situation from a position of strength. Back in the elevator, Gabriel placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Elena, he said softly, it's going to be okay. We'll handle this on your terms. Elena's eyes glistened, but her expression turned resolute. I want to see every single detail of his reservation, every charge to the room, every service requested. Then I want to reset the terms of my ownership. I want staff to answer to me directly. Understood? Gabriel nodded. He knew Elena well enough to recognize that when she was hurt, she tackled it with a fierce determination. A plan was forming, and it was only a matter of time before Oliver found himself in her crosshairs. Once they returned to the manager's office, Elena calmly reviewed the property's official documents. She asked for security protocols, including how staff should respond to certain unexpected developments. She also quietly arranged for a daily occupancy update, verifying not only that Oliver was staying in the penthouse, but noting every time room service or special amenities were requested. Not a flicker of movement would go unseen by Elena's watchful eye. Throughout the afternoon, she held meetings with various department heads, reasserting her position as the new owner. Though cordial, her tone was steely enough to command respect. From the spa manager to the head chef, each was informed that Ms. Santorini was taking an active role in immediate day-to-day operations to ensure a smooth transition. None suspected the turmoil swirling behind her composed exterior. As dusk settled, a subtle golden light filtered into the palm-fringed courtyard of the Valentina Resort and Spa. Elena stood by one of the large windows overlooking the ocean. She gently rested her hands on her belly. A swirl of sadness passed over her lips, but her eyes held a quiet determination. She whispered to herself, "For you, little one, I will do the right thing. We deserve more than lies and hollow promises." At that moment, her phone buzzed. It was Oliver. He sent a brief text. "Hope your day's going well. Miss you. Business is busy here. Love you." Elena closed her eyes, inhaling shakily. She typed back a succinct message. "All good. Glad you're busy. I'm managing a new project. We'll call soon." She stared at those words, feeling a surge of irony, anger, and heartbreak. This war was not only about shattered trust, it was about reclaiming dignity, choosing the future her child deserved. She pressed send, letting the message fly, a faint echo of the confrontation yet to come. Somewhere on the same building's 22nd floor, Oliver read the text with a smile, oblivious to the quiet hurricane bearing down on his carefully guarded double life. Bianca Mendez had never intended to become a mistress. She grew up in a modest neighborhood in Houston, dreaming of a life where bills didn't cause nightmares and junk mail wasn't a cause for dread. Her drive propelled her to finish college with top marks, majoring in marketing. She told herself she'd rewrite her family's story, paving a path to success that her parents never had. Then she got her first big break. A recruiter introduced her to Oliver Reingold's firm. At 28, Bianca was newly minted in the high-stakes world of corporate marketing. Oliver's reputation preceded him. Charismatic but tough, a self-made mastermind who turned everything he touched to gold. At first, their relationship was strictly professional. But months of overseas trips, late work dinners, and shared frustrations over competitive freeloaders led to an undercurrent of intimacy. Bianca recalled her first real glimpse of Oliver's seductive charm one evening in London, when she found him gazing at her in a way that sent electricity through her veins. She knew better. He wore a wedding band, and she valued her career more than a tryst. But it was Oliver who first overstepped, sending a flirtatious text late at night. She hesitated, then responded in kind. That single message spiraled into an intense affair. Bianca drowned in guilt at first, but Oliver's attention, the sense of being chosen by a powerful man, she told herself it was just a fling. She never imagined it would last. Yet each time she tried to pull away, Oliver pulled her back with lavish gifts, heartfelt confessions that maybe his marriage wasn't the rosy picture everyone assumed. Bianca rationalized that he and Elena were drifting apart. There was no malice in it. Some couples just outgrow each other, right? So here she was, standing barefoot on a thick, plush rug in the penthouse of the Valentina Resort and Spa, wearing nothing but a satin robe with the signature V embroidered on the lapel. The sun was dipping behind a row of towering palms, casting a tropical glow through the glass walls. Oliver stood near the balcony, his phone glowing in his hand. He turned around. "Elena just texted me," he said, a flicker of something in his eyes. Was it guilt, or just mild discomfort? Bianca studied him. "She's still in Los Angeles?" He nodded vaguely. "Yes, she's doing fine. She's managing a new project." He pocketed his phone, walked over, and placed his hands gently on Bianca's shoulders. "Let's not talk about that right now." Bianca surrendered the conversation, leaning into Oliver's touch. There was a part of her that wished she could ask tougher questions. "When will you leave your wife? Do you see an actual future for us?" But she was afraid of hearing an answer she didn't like. For now, she took the present moment as enough, convincing herself that she wasn't just a fling, that perhaps Oliver might choose her one day. Oliver kissed her temple, then motioned toward the suite's dining area. "We have a private chef arriving soon. Let's indulge in a gourmet experience, just you and me." She gave him a soft smile. "Sounds perfect." Meanwhile, in the hotel's command center, an inconspicuous room that managed security cameras and staff coordination, Elena watched a screen showing Oliver and Bianca in the penthouse suite. The feed was muted and displayed only the main living area. She had asked for a silent reel, needing no further invasion than the visual proof of her broken marriage. Gabriel stood quietly behind her, bristling with protective anger. Elena's face was stoic, but her eyes burned. "I don't want to see anymore," she murmured, turning away from the screen. She stepped out into the hallway, feeling the labyrinth of swirling emotions in her chest. Part of her wanted to burst in, confronting Oliver with the rawness of her betrayal. Another part wanted him to sweat, to realize she was never to be underestimated. The one thing she knew for certain was that the days of blind trust were over. That night, the hotel corridor outside the penthouse took on a quiet hush. Romantic music drifted from within the suite. Bianca and Oliver were savoring an elegant dinner. Fresh-caught mahi-mahi, saffron risotto, and an indulgent dessert made from coconut cream and tropical fruits. The candlelight flickered against walls of glass, reflecting the city lights and the endless stretch of ocean. Halfway through dinner, Oliver's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, growing visibly tense. "Something wrong?" Bianca asked, noticing the shift in his demeanor. "Just a work issue," Oliver said, setting the phone aside. In reality, it was a message from his CFO about an unexpected snag in one of their major contracts. A competitor had undercut them at the last minute. Sighing, Oliver poured another glass of wine for Bianca and tried to refocus on the moment. But the creeping anxiety of potential business failures mingled with the guilt about Elena. His illusions of total control began to fray, gnawing at the edges of his confidence. The next day dawned bright, with the sun shimmering on aqua waters. Oliver had scheduled a call with his CFO at noon, and while Bianca dozed in bed, he stepped onto the balcony to handle damage control. The discussion was tense. New factors threatened to unravel months of negotiation. Oliver's temper flared, and he barked at his CFO to fix it, whatever it costs. He ended the call with a throbbing headache. Back inside, Bianca was rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Is everything okay?" she asked softly, pulling the sheets around her. "No," Oliver muttered. "Business is complicated." Bianca hesitated, then got up and wrapped her arms around him from behind. "Maybe take a break from it all. That's why you're here, right?" Oliver turned to her, a half smile on his lips. She was right. He needed to let go. "What do you say we visit the beach? Maybe rent a private cabana?" Bianca's face lit up. "Absolutely!" she squealed in delight, her earlier reservations about the moral quagmire pushed aside. For now, she had Oliver's full attention, and that seemed enough. An hour later, they were strolling along the powdery sand of Miami Beach, warm waves tickling their ankles. Oliver's assistant had arranged for a secluded VIP cabana, complete with lounge chairs, chilled champagne, and fruit platters. The ocean sparkled under the midday sun, and the music of a nearby beach club provided a languid, festive beat. While they lounged, a staff member approached with discreet courtesy. "Mr. Reingold, Ms. Mendez, compliments of the Valentina Resort." He handed them a note in an elegant envelope, the resort's insignia embossed in gold. Oliver raised an eyebrow. "Thank you," he said, opening it carefully. The note read, "We are pleased to see you enjoying your stay. The resort's new owner, Ms. Santorini, extends an invitation to a private dinner tomorrow evening, celebrating the grand opening. Your attendance would honor us." A flicker of confusion crossed Oliver's face. He had heard the name Santorini before. Some colleague had mentioned the name in context of a rising star in hospitality, but he hadn't connected the dots to Elena's maiden name. Adding to his perplexity was the fact that this invitation specifically singled him out. Usually such events were for top-tier guests, but the personal note felt pointed. Bianca peered at the note. "A private dinner with the new owner? That's quite exclusive," she remarked, intrigued. Oliver shrugged, though a knot formed in his stomach. "I guess so. Maybe we'll go. It could be good for my business network to meet hospitality investors. We'll see." Hidden from view, Elena and Gabriel had orchestrated this. A trap of sorts. Elena intended to lure Oliver into a scenario he couldn't escape. A scenario in which the masked pretenses of his affair would unravel under the bright lights of truth. She planned to appear as the gracious host, the pregnant wife he'd so callously strayed from, the hidden power behind the Valentina Resort and Spa. Late that evening, Oliver and Bianca prepared for a night out. In the penthouse, Bianca tried on a sleek black cocktail dress, swirling around to show him. He nodded approval, but he was distracted. Something about the invitation gnawed at his mind. The name Santorini repeated itself like a warning sign. "Bianca," he said, "I need to check something." He walked over to the suite's desk and turned on his laptop. Hoping for some clarity, he typed in Valentina Resort and Spa New Ownership Santorini into a search engine. But the results were minimal. Clearly, Elena had managed to keep a low profile. She was no fool. Her corporate structures were carefully layered. The only mention was a vague press release stating that Santorini Enterprises had invested heavily in a new Miami Beach property. No mention of the individuals involved. Turning off the laptop in frustrated confusion, Oliver decided that tomorrow's fancy dinner might answer his questions. For now, he told himself, it was probably just an ambitious investor who recognized his name. With a final sigh, he joined Bianca, forced a smile, and led her out for a night of Miami's vibrant clubs and restaurants. Meanwhile, Elena awaited the moment that would unravel Oliver's illusion. She wasn't seeking a public spectacle. She was out for a deeper reckoning, an emotional confrontation that would grant her the closure and transformation she needed. As the clock ticked toward tomorrow's dinner event, the sense of inevitability weighed in the humid night air. Before the sun set again, Oliver's world would be irreversibly changed. And in the quiet corners of Elena's mind, the seeds of both retribution and redemption took root, ready to blossom in the storm to come. Morning arrived in a flurry of sunshine and cerulean skies. Elena, in her private wing of the resort, rose early. Sleep eluded her after months of suspicion and heartbreak. She traced her hand over her swelling belly, whispering a silent promise to her unborn child. Today, we end this cycle of lies. Gabriel stood ready, meticulously going over the schedule for the grand dinner. A carefully curated guest list included local dignitaries, a few celebrities, and top clientele. But Oliver and Bianca would be the centerpiece, tethered by an invitation that read like fate's decree. "Setup is nearly complete," Gabriel reported. "We've placed them at the main table, though not directly beside you. The plan is to let them settle in before you make your entrance." Elena nodded. "Perfect." She glanced at her reflection in the mirror, a fitted ivory gown draped gracefully over her pregnant figure. The color accentuated her olive skin and dark hair. She looked regal, but not ostentatious. Precisely how she wanted to appear, untouchable, yet undeniably present. Meanwhile, Oliver and Bianca dressed for the event in the penthouse. He wore a tailored navy suit, his posture reflecting a confidence that belied his inner turmoil. Bianca chose a vibrant red gown to stand out in a crowd. As they prepared, a subdued tension hung in the air. Oliver sensed that something about the invitation was more than just a social courtesy. Bianca felt it too, though neither openly voiced concern. They descended to the resort's elegant ballroom just after sunset. The space was a vision of opulence. Expansive floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the illuminated pool and the silver moonlight dancing on the ocean. Crystal chandeliers sent prisms of light across the marble floors. Soft music played, and the hum of refined conversation filled the air. A maitre d' greeted them, guiding them to a table at the front of the room. Bianca noted the crowd. Miami's elite, recognized from society pages, mingled with out-of-town financiers and property tycoons. She nudged Oliver. "Look at these people. They're all power players." Oliver nodded uneasily. "Which begs the question, why are we here?" A hush settled as the evening's master of ceremonies took the stage, a tall man in a crisp tuxedo. "Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Tonight we celebrate the grand unveiling of the new gem in the Santorini Enterprises portfolio. Without further ado, It is my pleasure to introduce the visionary behind Valentina Resort and Spa, Ms. Elena Santorini. Applause erupted. Oliver felt a jolt hearing Santorini. His mind whirled, a crescendo of confusion and dread. He had assumed Santorini was just a wealthy entrepreneur. Could there be a connection to Elena? Before he could process the thought, Elena stepped onto the stage. She glowed under the lights, poised and graceful. Her hair was swept into a chic updo, revealing elegant diamond earrings. A hush fell as guests admired her regal presence and her very visible baby bump. Oliver sat rooted to his seat, Bianca at his side, both stunned into silence. "Good evening," Elena began, her voice resonant yet gentle. "It is an honor to welcome all of you to the Valentina Resort and Spa. This project is a dream come true, and I am proud to stand here as its new owner and caretaker." Oliver's mouth went dry. The woman on stage, the woman he had betrayed, owned the very property where he had planned his illicit getaway. He swallowed hard, his heart hammering. At his side, Bianca stared in confusion. She turned to Oliver, her eyes big with alarm. "Oliver," she hissed, "did you know?" He shook his head at a loss for words. Elena continued, offering thanks to the architects, the staff, the local officials who facilitated the project. Through it all, her gaze searched the room. Then, as if drawn by magnetic force, her eyes found Oliver's. For a split second, time froze. Shock, sorrow, and quiet fury mixed in her expression. Oliver could barely breathe. With measured composure, Elena concluded her speech and stepped down from the stage. The MC announced that guests could enjoy dinner and mingle. A string quartet began to play softly. Elena vanished into the throng, exchanging polite greetings and receiving congratulations with the grace of a seasoned diplomat. Oliver excused himself from Bianca's side, weaving through the crowd until he found Elena standing by a lavish floral arrangement. She was speaking with a local politician, but as soon as she saw Oliver approach, she nodded politely at the politician and turned to face him. "Elena," he began, voice quivering. He attempted a warm smile, but it faltered. I had no idea." Words failed him. The unimaginable reality of his wife's presence was a gut punch. Her appearance was regal, carrying an aura of authority that both frightened and fascinated him. Elena regarded him coolly, letting him writhe in the silence. Finally, she spoke. "Yes, you had no idea. But that's the hallmark of your approach, isn't it? Never asking, never noticing." Her tone was calm, but laced with a lethal undertone. Oliver's face color drained. He looked around, ensuring no one was overhearing. "We should talk," he managed. Elena gave a short nod. "My private lounge in 10 minutes. Alone." She glided away, leaving him staring after her, a hollow ache in his chest. Bianca sidled up to Oliver, eyes wide. "What's going on?" she demanded, voice trembling. "Is that your wife? She's the owner of this resort?" Oliver nodded silently, swallowing. Bianca's face contorted with shock and dismay. Her illusions, perhaps even fantasies of a future with Oliver, fractured. In that moment, she fully grasped the emotional landmine she'd stepped on. "Stay here," Oliver said abruptly. "I need to handle this alone." Bianca, stunned, simply nodded, watching him vanish into the crowd. She could only imagine the storm about to unfold behind closed doors. Upstairs, in Elena's private lounge, a refined, modern space with plush seating and delicate metallic accents, she waited with her hands clasped in front of her. The baby's steady movements inside her lent her courage. A swirl of heartbreak, betrayal, and sorrow fueled her resolve, yet she clung to composure. She had to face Oliver on her terms. He entered, shutting the door softly behind him. His shoulders sagged, like a schoolboy caught cheating on an exam. "Elena," he began, voice thick with desperation. I don't know what to say." She studied him, letting the silence stretch. Her heartbeat throbbed in her throat, but she refused to show weakness. "You don't know what to say? Then let me start. I own this hotel. My business expansions? This is the largest one. And you chose to bring another woman here, our child in my womb, and you—" She paused, choking on emotion. "You're parading around in my hotel with a mistress." Oliver's eyes glistened with shame. "I'm sorry," he whispered, stepping forward. "I swear I never meant to hurt you like this. Bianca, it just happened. We were drifting apart." Elena's voice turned icy. "We were drifting apart, so you made the choice to have an affair? While I carry your child?" He dropped his gaze, tears threatening. "Yes, I messed up, Elena. I've been stressed. I felt suffocated. She held up a hand. "Don't insult my intelligence by making excuses about stress. I'm stressed too. I'm pregnant, running a business, and I still found ways to be faithful." The heartbreak in her voice was palpable. The silence that followed was excruciating. Oliver finally dared to look at her. "What do you want to do?" he asked quietly. Elena swallowed back tears. "I'm not going to make a scene for the tabloids. I have my dignity, and I need to protect our child. But make no mistake, Oliver, you've broken us in ways that may not be fixable. Tonight, I'll continue to host my event, acting as though everything is normal. Tomorrow, we'll discuss our future, whether there even is a future." Oliver reached for Elena's hand, but she withdrew, her eyes aflame. "Don't touch me," she said, voice cracking with hurt. "Not tonight." He nodded, feeling the finality of her words. Without another word, Elena turned and left, the gentle scent of her perfume trailing behind. Oliver sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. He thought about the empire he'd built, the illusions he cherished, and now, in a single night, it was all unraveling. Downstairs, Bianca felt the stares of partygoers. Perhaps some recognized Oliver from business circles and speculated about their relationship. Her stomach churned with anxiety. She lingered by the bar, sipping a cocktail to steady her nerves. If Elena was indeed Oliver's wife, then this entire charade could end in catastrophic humiliation for everyone involved. Elena reappeared in the ballroom, dignified as ever, greeting her esteemed guests, a mask of poise concealing the turmoil within. For the rest of the evening, Oliver remained conspicuously in the background, torn between confronting Bianca and giving Elena space. His world had imploded, yet the music played on, the chandeliers sparkled, and the well-heeled attendees applauded the resort's grand success. By the time the last guest departed, Elena slipped away to her private suite, her mind heavy with decisions she didn't want to make, but knew she must. From a window overlooking the moonlit ocean, she pressed a hand to her belly and closed her eyes. The next few days would alter the course of her life, and Oliver's. Only time would tell if anything salvageable remained in the ashes of their marriage. But for now, heartbreak reigned, and the promise of redemption hovered like a distant star. By dawn, the luxurious halls of the Valentina Resort and Spa seemed washed in quiet tension. Staff went about their duties with polite smiles, but rumors swirled. Some suspected a dramatic domestic incident involving the new owner. Others had only vague whispers of scandal. Meanwhile, in the largest suite, Elena sat at a polished desk with a stack of documents. Her phone rested next to them, messages still unread. She had asked Gabriel to prepare 2 sets of legal papers, one for a potential separation, another for an immediate divorce. The door opened gently, and Gabriel walked in, carrying a tray with tea and croissants. "Elena, you should eat. You need your strength." She gave him a weary nod, fingers toying nervously with the pen on the desk. "Thank you, Gabriel." He set the tray down. I've scheduled a meeting with the hotel's legal counsel for mid-morning, as you requested. And Oliver is waiting in the main lounge whenever you're ready to speak with him. Elena exhaled slowly. I'll face him now. Minutes later, she arrived in a side lounge, a room meant for intimate business conversations or small private gatherings. She found Oliver sitting on an elegant chaise, staring absently at the floor. When he looked up, Elena noticed the dark circles under his eyes, the sense of weariness that replaced his usual self-assurance. She stood a few steps away, arms folded. He rose. Elena, She lifted a hand. Let me speak first. She took a measured breath. I've spent the night wrestling with my options, divorce or separation. I'm still not certain which path is right. Oliver's face fell. He closed his eyes momentarily. I understand. All I can do is ask for a chance. Just one chance to make this right. A flicker of pain crossed Elena's features. Why, Oliver? What do you really want from me? We'd built a life together, and you threw it away for fleeting pleasure? It wasn't just pleasure, he said, forcing the words out. I was lost, Elena. I felt overshadowed by my own success. I needed to feel alive, to be reminded I wasn't just a machine churning out deals. Bianca made me feel desired. Elena clenched her jaw. You want pity from me? She shook her head. You have no idea how many moments I felt alone, too, carrying our child while you locked yourself away in meetings or jetted off to conferences. But I turned my loneliness into building something meaningful. I didn't betray you. Oliver stepped closer, just out of arm's reach. I know. I was cowardly, selfish. But please, my love, if there's any shred of forgiveness. Before he could finish, the lounge door opened. Bianca walked in, eyes puffy with tears, her expression frantic. Gabriel, right behind her, tried to stop her, but she pushed past him. I'm sorry, Bianca exclaimed breathlessly, looking at Elena first, then Oliver. Elena turned to Bianca, her face impassive. What do you want? Bianca's voice trembled. I can't just pretend I'm not part of this. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I never intended to destroy your marriage. A harsh laugh escaped Elena's lips. Yet here you are. It's a bit late for regrets, isn't it? Bianca's eyes filled with tears. I made a mistake. I convinced myself he wasn't happy, that it wasn't so bad. But now I see the real damage. She glanced at Oliver, voice cracking. If there's any chance, I'll walk away if that's what it takes. Oliver raked a hand through his hair, torn between guilt and resentment. The last thing he wanted was a confrontation. But events had overtaken him. Bianca, I appreciate you coming here, but this is between me and my wife. A charged silence hung in the air. Finally, Elena broke it. We'll settle this once and for all. Oliver, you claim you want to fix what's broken? Then you end things with her right now in front of me. Her voice quivered with a blend of defiance and heartbreak. Bianca froze, tears streaming. She turned to Oliver, longing in her eyes. I only want you to be happy. If leaving you is the only way, then… Oliver swallowed hard. His eyes flickered with regret. Eventually, he faced Bianca, voice subdued. We can't continue this. I'm sorry, Bianca. I can't be with you. Bianca tried to stifle a sob, then nodded. She pressed a shaking hand to her face, turning away. Gabriel stepped in gently, escorting her out. The door closed behind them with a soft click, leaving Oliver and Elena alone again. Elena's eyes were moist, but her posture was unyielding. That was a first step, Oliver, but it doesn't erase the betrayal. He nodded slowly. I understand. She pursed her lips. I want you out of my hotel by noon today. His expression crumpled. Elena, and after that, she continued, I need time, space. I'll remain here in Miami for a while, overseeing the resort. You can return to Los Angeles and try to salvage your company or re-examine your life. I don't know. But I won't pretend everything is fine back home. We'll communicate through our attorneys." Oliver's shoulders shook as he fought tears. The gravity of what he had lost weighed on him like an anvil. "Elena," he whispered, I truly love you. I can't express my guilt enough. I'll do anything, counseling, therapy, time away, whatever it takes." She looked at him, her gaze softening for a moment. "I believe you do love me, in your own way, but that didn't stop you from hurting me, and love should never be this destructive." She spoke with a quiet sorrow. "If there's going to be any hope of reconciliation, we need to start from square one. I'm not making any promises." He nodded, choking out the words. "I understand." With the conversation closed, Elena left him in the lounge. She climbed the private elevator to her suite, feeling a tumult of compassion, ache, and anger swirling within her. As soon as the doors slid shut, she pressed a hand to her abdomen. The baby stirred, a mild flutter. She thought about the child's future. Did she want a father with so little restraint, or would she prefer the stability she could create on her own? She had always considered Oliver's charm and intelligence assets to their child's life, but now they were overshadowed by betrayal. Downstairs, Oliver packed his belongings in the penthouse. Bianca was nowhere in sight. She too was packing, determined to leave quietly. The rest of the morning was marked by hushed phone calls to private drivers and carefully coordinated exits. By noon, the same glossy Escalade that had welcomed them whisked Oliver and Bianca separately from the property. Hotel staff kept a discreet silence as they left through a side entrance, avoiding media or curious eyes. Elena spent the day reviewing new decor proposals with an interior design team. She wore the mantle of professionalism, like armor. Yet deep inside, her world was reeling. As the sun set, she slipped away to a secluded corner of the resort's garden, a place where palm trees swayed in gentle breezes and fairy lights glowed softly at dusk. She sank onto a wooden bench and finally allowed herself to release pent-up tears. Gabriel found her there an hour later, quietly sobbing into her hands. He draped a comforting arm around her shoulders. She welcomed the solace, allowing her sorrow to flow, heartbreak washing over her in crashing waves. "Shh," Gabriel whispered. "You're going to be all right. You're strong, Elena." She cried harder. "I don't feel strong right now. I just feel shattered." He pressed a handkerchief into her hands. "You'll rebuild yourself. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but soon. You have the resources, the intelligence, and the heart to come out of this stronger." Elena sniffled. "I'm worried about our child. I wanted a loving family, not a fractured home." Gabriel's expression turned reflective. "Elena, families aren't just formed by perfection. Sometimes they're forged by resilience. You've done nothing wrong but invest trust in the wrong place. That's not a weakness. That's a testament to your capacity for love." She closed her eyes, soaking in his words. Eventually, her sobs subsided, leaving a lingering ache that she suspected would take a long time to fade. But a tiny seed of determination remained. She would find a path forward, with or without Oliver. Far away, Oliver sat in an airport lounge, staring at the departure board for flights to Los Angeles. A single tear traced down his cheek as he remembered Elena's trembling voice, her unwavering stance, the heartbreak in her eyes. At that moment, he understood that redemption would be neither quick nor guaranteed. If he wanted to be part of his child's life, or to ever hold Elena again, he would have to confront the darker corners of himself. No more empty distractions, no more illusions of invincibility. When Oliver finally boarded his plane, he carried only a small bag of personal items. In the hush of his first-class seat, he shut his eyes, silently vowing to change. For the first time in his life, he acknowledged his own powerlessness to the pull of temptation, the illusions of grandeur, and the pain self-inflicted by his choices. Back at the resort, Elena wiped her eyes, squared her shoulders, and rose from the garden bench. She had an empire to oversee, a child to nurture, and a life to reforge. As the Miami night enveloped her, she whispered to herself one final time, "This is not the end of my story. It's a new chapter." And with that, she walked away from the garden, stepping into the unknown with courage she never thought she'd need so soon. 6 weeks later, the Valentina Resort and Spa buzzed with success. Under Elena's watchful eye, a flurry of events and strategic marketing had turned the newly opened hotel into the talk of Miami's elite. Travel magazines wrote glowing reviews, praising its modern elegance and impeccable service. Elena remained on-site, personally supervising operations while preparing for her baby's imminent arrival. Though her belly was now quite pronounced, she carried herself with a renewed sense of purpose, each day a testament to her healing process. Gabriel had become an indispensable presence, coordinating staff, fielding media inquiries, and managing Elena's multifaceted schedule. He watched with admiration as Elena poured her heartbreak into creativity and progress. Late at night, she still cried sometimes. He knew that from the glimpses he caught of her puffy eyes in the morning, but each tear seemed to forge a deeper resolve. One afternoon, a letter arrived by courier. It bore Oliver's company seal. Elena retreated to her office to read it in private. Inside the envelope was a typed letter, accompanied by handwritten notes. "Elena, I've spent these last weeks in therapy sessions, trying to untangle the mistakes I made and the reasons I found myself in such a destructive pattern. I can't undo the pain I caused, but I'm determined to grow into a better man, one worthy of fatherhood. I know you may never trust me again, but I can't walk away from you or our child without at least trying to make amends. I've scheduled a flight to Miami this weekend. I respect your boundaries. If you're willing to see me, please let me know. I'll wait for your permission before stepping foot on Valentina's property. Regardless, I intend to remain in Miami for a week, working remotely in case there's any chance you'll speak with me. Forever sorry, Oliver." Elena read the letter twice, tears pooling in her eyes. She could almost sense his remorse in the words. But sorrow and anger still simmered. She was unsure if she was ready to see him. That night, she confided in Gabriel, who suggested she at least consider hearing Oliver out, if only for the sake of closure. Elena remained apprehensive, torn between protecting her fragile heart and acknowledging that Oliver was the father of her unborn child. On the weekend, a discreet text from Oliver confirmed he'd landed in Miami. True to his word, he did not come to the resort uninvited. Instead, he checked into a smaller boutique hotel on the other side of the city. Elena spent the first 2 days of his stay anxiously debating whether to see him. Meanwhile, staff updates revealed that Bianca was no longer working for Oliver's company. She had resigned and taken a position elsewhere. Finally, on the 3rd day, Elena decided. She invited Oliver to join her for a private lunch in a quiet corner of Valentina's oceanfront restaurant. They set a time for 1 p.m. The sun was high, the sea breeze carrying a pleasant coolness. Elena sat at a table on the terrace surrounded by verdant foliage, her heart pounding as she awaited Oliver. He arrived punctually, wearing a subdued gray suit. She recognized the hint of tension in the way he stood, hands clasped, scanning the area until he spotted her. For the first moment, they simply looked at each other, memories swirling in the silence. She noted how his face looked leaner, his usual swagger replaced by humble caution. When Oliver approached, Elena gestured for him to sit. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me," he began quietly. She nodded. "I almost didn't. But I realized this conversation isn't just about the two of us. It's about our child." He cast a glance at her belly. "How are you feeling? How's the baby?" His voice cracked slightly. She inhaled, fighting a rogue wave of emotion. Healthy, as far as the doctors can tell. I'm nearing 7.5 months now, so it's getting real. Oliver offered a tentative smile. I'm glad to hear that. I've been reading parenting books, though I know that doesn't automatically qualify me to be a dad. He sighed. And I've been in counseling, like I said. I'm probably more messed up than I realized. The bottom line, I see how I justified self-destructive behavior by focusing on success, on thrills. I was an adrenaline addict, ignoring what really mattered. I hurt you, Elena, and I'm sorry beyond words. Elena studied him, noticing for the first time how uncomfortable he seemed with vulnerability. Oliver had always been the alpha, charging into deals, always in control. Now he appeared uncertain, kneading his hands together as if afraid she might reject him outright. She pressed her lips together, searching for the right response. I appreciate your honesty, Oliver. I do. But words alone won't fix this. My trust is shattered. Oliver's eyes welled up. I know. Trust can be rebuilt only by consistent action over time. I want a chance to demonstrate I can be the man you once believed in. She exhaled slowly. I won't deny there's part of me that still cares for you. We built a life together, shared dreams. But your actions left a scar, and I have to guard my heart. Not just for me, but for the baby. I don't want to bring a child into a toxic environment. A pained expression crossed Oliver's face. I get it, but I'm here, and I want to show up for you, for our child, in any way you'll let me. Even if it's only as a supportive father, separate from you for now. They fell into a weighed silence, each contemplating the uncertain path forward. The waiter came to take their orders. Neither had much appetite, but they requested light fare: salads, fruit, and sparkling water. As they waited for the meal, Elena tapped her fingers anxiously on the table. How do you see this going, practically speaking? She asked softly. You live in LA. My business is taking me everywhere. What's the plan? Oliver took a moment. I've already talked to my board. If it comes down to it, I'm willing to relocate. Or at least I'll have a bi-coastal arrangement, so I can be wherever you and the baby are. My CFO can handle day-to-day operations. I need to prove to you I'm committed. Her eyes met his, searching for any signs of duplicity. She found mostly remorse and determination. That's a major change for you, she said, her voice almost trembling at the significance. He nodded emphatically. I realize that. But I've spent my life chasing money, deals, women's attention. None of it matches the depth of what I feel now. This need to be accountable, to be present for my family. Your forgiveness might not come easily or soon, but you deserve the effort. Elena bit her lower lip, tears threatening to spill. I'm not promising forgiveness. I want to see if your actions match your words. If you truly want to rebuild, then let's start with honest communication. Therapy, maybe. Joint sessions. If I agree, I want to explore that possibility, but only if I see true resolve from you. Oliver nodded, relief washing over him. Of course, whatever you need. I'll meet any condition you set. Their food arrived, but neither was focused on eating. They nibbled absently, each lost in a swirl of emotions. The conversation continued, diving into logistics and boundaries. Elena insisted on separate rooms if Oliver stayed at the resort, or a separate accommodation for the time being. Oliver agreed, understanding he must earn her trust gradually. By the time the check came, an odd mix of tension and fragile hope soaked the air. Oliver walked Elena to an elevator leading to her private suite. They paused in front of the doors, eyes locked in a somber exchange. Elena leaned against the cool elevator panel. I'll see you in a couple of days for our first therapy session. We'll take it from there. A watery smile crept onto Oliver's face. Thank you, Elena, for giving me even a sliver of a chance." She hesitated, then nodded. Before stepping into the elevator, she placed a hand on her belly, feeling a subtle kick. Oliver's eyes flickered to her midsection, a hint of awe dancing in his expression. For a moment, the weight of heartbreak gave way to the humbling reality of new life. Then she disappeared behind the elevator doors, leaving him in the corridor with a mixture of regret and a glimmer of hope. In the weeks that followed, Oliver remained in Miami. He participated in couples therapy sessions with Elena, alongside continuing his individual counseling. Each session was emotionally draining, forcing them to confront old wounds, surface resentments, and unspoken fears. There were times Elena left therapy crying, times Oliver wanted to storm out. But the baby's impending arrival anchored them, reminding them that they shared an inescapable bond. Through countless tears, guarded smiles, and awkward attempts at conversation, a fragile bond began to re-emerge. It was far from the dizzying romantic haze of their early marriage, but it was a slow rebuilding, grounded in honesty and the humbling knowledge of each other's capacity for both love and harm. Bianca, now a distant memory, had exited their narrative. Her presence a reminder that illusions of grandeur and corporate success could tempt even the best intentioned to go astray. On a balmy evening near the end of Elena's 8th month, she invited Oliver to walk with her along the resort's private stretch of beach. The waves lapped softly against the shore, and the setting sun cast a gold-pink glow across the water. She wore a flowing maternity dress, sandals in hand, as Oliver accompanied her barefoot in rolled-up trousers. They walked in companionable silence for a while. Then Elena stopped, turning to him. "You've been making an effort," she acknowledged. "I see it. Therapy is hard, but you keep showing up." Oliver nodded, swallowing a lump in his throat. "I'll keep showing up the rest of my life if that's what it takes." She gazed at the horizon, pensive. "I'm still hurt, but for the first time, I feel like we're actually communicating." Oliver took a tentative step closer. "I know, and I'm grateful for that. I've got a long way to go, both as a partner and as a man." She lowered her gaze, noticing the faint shimmer of tears in his eyes. Then, in an unexpected gesture, she reached out and touched his hand. It was neither a complete reconciliation nor a final condemnation. Just a small, human moment of connection after a season of betrayal and heartbreak. He squeezed her hand gently, tears slipping freely now. The ocean roared softly in the background, as if applauding this fragile step toward healing. They stood there under the Miami sunset, two people who had once thought themselves invincible, now stripped bare by their own failings, yet anchored by a shared hope. The child Elena carried seemed to pulse with the quiet promise that life could renew itself, even from the darkest ruins. Thank you for being part of this emotional journey of betrayal, heartbreak, and fragile redemption. We've witnessed Oliver's rise and fall, Bianca's shattered illusions, and most importantly, Elena's unwavering quest for dignity, proving that heartbreak can pave the way to newfound strength. Life doesn't always offer neat endings, but even in darkness, there's the hope of rebuilding. If you've been moved by this story, please show your support by liking this video, sharing it with friends, and subscribing to our channel. Your engagement helps us bring more deeply human and thought-provoking stories to life. Together, let's continue exploring moral dilemmas, tender reunions, and the unbreakable resilience of the human spirit. Stay tuned for more.